Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to, cut through the noise and get to what's really going on. You've
Yeah.
probably seen the headlines lately about the Trump tariffs.
hmm
Maybe that news about Japan's huge $550 billion investment in the U.S. or the 15% tariff deal.
Right, those
It-
specific numbers.
But, well, if our source material is right, those headlines, they're just scratching the surface, barely the tip of a much bigger economic iceberg.
Indeed. And that's our mission today, really, to go beyond just those surface perceptions. We're doing a deep dive, trying to uncover the really intricate, interconnected implications of these tariffs.
Okay.
Our goal is to maybe reorganize things a bit, clarify what's actually at play, because it looks like these tariffs aren't just about trade balance.
It's like more.
Yeah, much more. They could be a strategic lever,
Yeah.
reshaping global power dynamics, maybe even reclaiming some financial sovereignty from these giant multinational corporations, especially now with AI becoming so dominant.
That's a big mission. And the source material we looked at gives us three sort of core angles to understand this.
Three pillars, yeah.
First, we're going to explore this idea of the Trump tariffs as a kind of revolutionary AI tax aimed right at the multinationals.
Right.
Second, we'll look at the potential comeback, you
Ah.
could say, of the dollar's global dominance.
Dollar hegemony again.
And finally, maybe the most surprising part, the potential for a new era of global deflation.
Yeah, deflation. It's a fascinating puzzle, all these pieces.
It really is. And we're going to try and put them together for you. So let's start with that first pillar. Trump tariffs as this AI tax idea, and maybe even a path to basic income.
Okay.
Our source starts with this concept of a fundamental shift in the balance of power.
Mm-hmm.
For decades, right, we've seen global corporations get incredibly powerful. Sometimes it feels like they have more influence than actual countries. The material we reviewed suggests these tariffs. They signal a deliberate move, especially by the U.S., to reassert national power over these dominant global players.
And it makes you ask, well, how did these companies get so powerful to begin with?
Good question.
Our source actually takes us back, looks at key moments for the dollar.
Yeah.
Think about 2008 after Lehman Brothers collapsed,
The Lehman shock, yeah.
and then again 2020, the Corona shock.
Right. Two huge events.
In both cases, the Federal Reserve, the FRB, under Democratic administrations back then, well, they pumped enormous amounts of dollars into the global economy, just huge liquidity injections.
Okay.
And that liquidity, our sources argue, is what really fueled the explosive growth of companies like, GFAM, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft.
The tech giants.
Exactly. But also big Japanese manufacturers like Toyota, like Cayenne, and of course the whole semiconductor boom recently.
So the Fed's actions basically inflated these companies.
Well, it certainly helped. Our sources say these massive cash injections inadvertently let these global tech and manufacturing giants build up unprecedented dollar reserves. And that, in turn, helped the global economic recovery. But it also made them incredibly rich and powerful.
Okay, so that sets the stage.
Mhm.
Now, fast forward to today. AI is just driving massive productivity gains, huge leaps.
Monumental.
And this isn't just, making things a bit faster.
Yeah.
It means companies can drastically cut personnel costs,
Right. Fewer people needed for the same output or even more output.
which naturally boosts profits, boosts them incredibly.
Quotable levels, yeah.
So the source immediately asks this critical question. Is this kind of unchecked corporate growth fueled by AI shrinking the workforce?
Mm.
Is that actually good for society in the long run?
That's the core tension, isn't it? And
Yeah.
this is where the tariff mechanism comes back in. And it's apparently more subtle than just slapping a tax on imports at the border.
How so?
Well, okay, the importer technically pays the tariff fee, right, when the goods arrive. But our source explains how the actual financial hit, the sting, often gets pushed back
Push back onto who?
onto the exporter, the multinational corporation selling the goods, through, tough price negotiations. The exporter is often pressured, maybe even forced, to lower their price before the tariff is added.
So the importer can still sell it competitively.
Exactly. They discount it so the final price with the tariff isn't too high for the end consumer. It's presented as a strategic way to make sure the burden really lands on those big global companies, not just the local importer or, you at the checkout.
Okay, that makes sense. So if the multinationals are the ones effectively paying, how does the source connect this to the AI tax idea? Is it just about getting revenue, or is there something like deeper going on?
It's framed as much deeper. This isn't just any old tariff, according to the analysis we read. It's called this revolutionary AI tax for a very specific reason. The core idea presented is that the U.S. government wants to use these tariffs to sort of recollect those vast dollar reserves, the ones that got dispersed globally and ended up inside these huge multinational corporations after those liquidity injections we talked about.
Recollect the dollars. Okay.
And then here's the link. Connect that collection to AI's impact. The tariff money coming in is seen as a way for the government to, recover or offset the value of the human labor that companies are saving because of AI.
Wow. Okay. So AI does the work, saves the company money.
And the government uses the tariff to effectively claim back some of that saved value, almost like acting as a societal payroll substitute for the jobs AI displays.
And payroll substitute. And what happens to that money?
The idea is it could then be redistributed inside the U.S., maybe through tax cuts for citizens or possibly even funding some form of basic income.
Basic income, funded by tariffs on multinationals profiting from AI.
That's the concept laid out, to support people's ability to consume, keep the economy moving, and, crucially, prevent the kind of social instability you might get from mass job displacement due to AI.
That is quite a strategic vision. It really sounds like the goal, then, is to stop these huge corporations, the GAFAMs of the world, from becoming, more powerful than actual nations.
Exactly, by accumulating these massive internal dollar piles and just buying up competitors.
So the tariffs are a tool to bring the state America, in this case, back into a stronger position relative to these corporate giants.
Precisely. Linking this specific kind of AI tax directly to supporting citizens, maybe through basic income. It's a bold idea.
It really is. And that leads us pretty smoothly into the second and third pillars.
Right. Yes, the resurgence of the dollar and this idea of deflation.
So if the U.S. is successfully pulling dollars back from global corporations with these tariffs,
then logically, the total amount of dollars floating around the world outside the U.S. must go down. The supply shrinks.
Right. Basic economics. Less supply of something.
Its value tends to go up.
Which leads directly to that third pillar you mentioned.
Right.
Global deflation, where prices generally start to fall.
Exactly. Prices falling across the board.
Which sounds maybe good for consumers, but what about the corporations?
Well, that's the fascinating part, according to the source. In a deflationary world, corporate profits usually shrink. It's harder to maintain profit margins when prices are falling.
Okay.
Which then further weakens the corporation's position relative to the state. It sort of reinforces that whole narrative of the nation-state reasserting its dominance. It becomes almost a natural economic consequence.
But America seems to have a unique advantage here.
Definitely.
It collects the dollars via tariffs, but then it can put them back into circulation domestically, given to its own citizens, like through that basic income idea.
Right. It controls the recirculation within its own borders.
But what about other countries? Our source pointed out a potential dilemma, didn't it, for non-U.S. companies?
Yes, a significant one. Take a hypothetical Japanese company. It uses AI, cuts labor costs, maybe jobs are lost in Japan.
Okay.
But the Japanese government isn't the one collecting these specific tariffs. So it doesn't have that direct stream of revenue coming in to maybe provide similar support, like unemployment benefits or basic income, to its displaced workers.
Ah, I see the asymmetry there. The U.S. collects the AI offset globally, but distributes it locally. Other countries face the job losses without that specific funding mechanism.
Exactly. And this whole setup, this structure, our source suggests looking at it through a different lens, aligning with that Make America Great Again idea.
How so?
It's presented as a strategic mechanism designed to revive the dollar's top position, its hegemony, and reestablish the U.S. as the dominant global power.
By controlling the currency.
Essentially, yes. The U.S. can manage the supply, let it flow out globally, and then use these tariffs as a way to pull it back in, which naturally strengthens the dollar relative to everything else.
And that massive Japanese investment we started with, the $550 billion.
Yeah.
How does that fit?
Well, the source hints that maybe, in a kind of roundabout way, the returns from that huge investment in the U.S., maybe those returns could eventually help fund something like basic income back in Japan.
So other countries might end up sort of investing in America's strength to get a return.
It implies a future where maybe other nations essentially become investors in the U.S. system, benefiting indirectly from America's potentially strengthened position as it consolidates economic power. It's a complex interdependence.
Okay, let's try and quickly pull those threads together then.
Yeah, let's recap.
We're looking at the possibility of Trump tariffs being framed as a strategic AI tax.
Right. collecting dollars that went out globally, specifically from multinationals.
That money could potentially fund basic income within the U.S.,
Helping cushion the blow from AI job displacement.
while also acting to curb corporate power and reassert U.S. national strength,
And the knock-on effect, a potential reduction in global dollar supply.
leading to global deflation and a stronger dollar.
Renewed hegemony.
It's all deeply interconnected in this analysis. So ultimately, AI makes companies more efficient, stronger in a way.
Undeniably.
But the social consequences, the job shifts, might be something governments try to manage through basic income, perhaps funded by these kinds of tariffs, or maybe funded by returns on investing in the U.S.
Right. The source does note that corporate earnings per share, EPS, might take a hit from these taxes and deflationary pressures.
That makes sense.
But the argument is that the overall global economy could potentially become richer and maybe even more stable in the long run under this kind of system.
Interesting. A potential trade-off between corporate profit growth and broader economic stability.
Which leaves us with a really important question for you, the listener, to think about.
Okay.
Could this global rise of AI productivity, could it actually be pushing humanity towards an era where all this new wealth naturally leads to something like widespread basic income as just a standard thing for social stability, for prosperity?
A future where AI generates wealth and mechanisms like these redistribute it.
Maybe. What does that kind of future look like for you? For your community, something to definitely mull over.